Well, let's get started. We've got a group forming, and I think there's still a few more that I know are going to join, but it'd be nice to get started. Today we've got Tal Kreisler from NOTRAFFIC, who's agreed to give us a presentation on the So, Tal, if I could pass it over to you, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Wilfred. So nice to meet you all. Just give me 1 second to share my screen with you. Just a second. Okay.
That's perfect. We can see that, Tal.
Great. So just a quick overview of the agenda of the meeting. So I'll start with some introduction about the company and the industry that we are operating in. I'll explain briefly about our solution and how it works. Afterward, I'll present a case study that we have here, and a few nice insights and videos. And afterwards, I'll talk about one of the V2X experiments that we conducted recently here in Israel. So let's start. NOTRAFFIC is established in May 2016. 3 co-founders. Today we are 15 people in the team. Until today, we raised $3.5 million. We are, in general, entering the field of urban infrastructure, so just a quick overview on the industry that we are operating in. If you look at the mobility ecosystem as a whole, you can roughly divide it for two. The vehicle side, with, as you can see, is going through exponential growth with autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles, etc. And the other side that should be complementary to vehicles, which is the road infrastructure, but still stuck about 100 years back. NOTRAFFIC is developing a traffic management platform for cities, which based on on a network of smart sensors that we are deploying in signalized intersection in a plug-and-play way, which provide the city the ability to control and manage traffic flow in real time, but also to leverage the benefits from connected and autonomous vehicles later on. So a little bit about traffic management world and how this world is working today. Today, cities are managing traffic flow using traffic lights. Traffic lights originally replaced police officers about 100 years back. It's actually saved New York City about $12.5 million when they did this change. The thing is that since then, not too much have changed, which means that when we're talking about traffic lights, even today, they are still being, the vast majority of them is still being retimed manually. And according to this timing that is conducted around every once in 3 years, this is the recommendation from the Federal Highway Administration. Sometimes it can go up to 20 years. The company that doing the timing is creating a fixed set of programs, and this is how the traffic light is worked from now on. So, Lisa, can you just put on mute? Thanks. So effectively, we have no correlation between traffic and whoever manages the traffic. Now, the reason that I said manage the traffic is since cities are using the traffic lights, not just to decide which side will go now, but also to implement the traffic management agenda, which means which corridors they want to prioritize, what kind of vehicles they want to prioritize, whether it's public transportation, emergency vehicles, or anything like this. Sometimes the cities want to reduce the average speed in certain locations, for example, near to kindergartens, where they are creating a red light corridor, which is the opposite of green light corridor. The purpose of red light corridor is to reduce the average speed in a certain area. The purpose of green light corridor is to prioritize certain corridor in the city. So this is how the city is implementing the traffic management policy. So as I explained before, today we have no correlation between traffic and whoever manage it. The other thing that we are starting to see today is that OEM already starting to contact cities and to try to gain access to traffic light controllers, to send demand calls to the controllers that the vehicle are approaching, but also to get information and data back about what's the traffic light timing, etc. The thing is that we don't have yet any solution that allow to create this connectivity in an efficient way. What you see is a quote by the Director of Technology of the Virginia Department of Transportation, that simply said we need something or a solution that will mitigate the road infrastructure and connected autonomous vehicles. So this is a little bit about the field that we are operating in. So we know how to bring the best technology. However, we thought, how can you take this infrastructure world? And usually when you think about infrastructure, we think about long processes, a lot of time, all this heavy stuff that take ages to happen. And then we thought, how can we create a solution that will bring all those benefits, but will reduce all the hassle and everything I just discussed about now. And this is how we create NOTRAFFIC, and this is how we start to develop our solution. So we have, in general, two problems that we need to solve. The first thing is that we have a data problem. We don't know yet today about, we don't have any too much information about who is approaching the intersection, how many vehicles, what types of vehicles, what's the speed of those vehicles. Again, we have some sensors and some advanced detection and these kind of things. Those things are cost usually a lot of money to maintain and to install, and they don't have a vast deployment. So the first thing that we have to deal with is how can we, if you want to manage something, how can we get this data? How can we understand what's really going on out there? And this data we're acquiring using our sensors. We're deploying, this is what you see here, and number one, we're deploying our sensor in a plug-and-play way in signalized intersection, which means that in an intersection with 4 approaches, we will have 4 sensors, one towards every approach, which can detect about 200 to 300 meters, which is approximately 600 to 900 feet from the stop line backwards, and to do on the analytics on the unit itself. Therefore, we do not require fiber optics or any expensive installation. Using edge computing, we have artificial intelligence algorithms or deep learning algorithms running on the sensor itself, which have a human-eye level ability to segmentize and differentiate all the objects that are out there and approaching the intersection. All the data that is being analyzed is being sent to what you see in unit number 2. This is the traffic light controller. In every intersection, we have a traffic light controller. This is the computer that manages the lights. The vast majority of them are not very sophisticated. So just to give you a sense, in your cell phone, you have more computing power than in the accumulated majority of the traffic light controller in every city. So all the units that are being collected is being sent to another unit that we have. We have a control unit set up to the traffic light controller. The control unit is acquiring all the data from all the sensors in real time. And based on this real-time data, it's optimizing traffic flow. Now, when we're saying optimizing traffic flow, optimization, in the end of the day, is something subjective. It's up to the user, which is the city or the Department of Transportation, to decide what they want to optimize, which corridor they want to optimize, what types of vehicle they want to prioritize, etc. So based on the user constraints, the system is optimizing traffic flow automatically. From the unit, from the control unit up to the controller, all this data is being sent to the cloud, and from the cloud to all the other intersections. And this is how the next intersection knows what's happened on the local level, but also what's happened on the general, on the global level, who is approaching from each intersection. And this is how we take a decision, not just locally, but also globally in a whole corridor or grid. So this is a little bit about the deployment, about the sensors. So the sensor have basically two parts. They're acquiring data from 2 sources. One is through computer vision algorithms about all the non-connected objects that we have on the road. And the second one is directly from connected vehicles. We implementing ESRC and LTE. We're not betting, we're not going to this competition between the two of who's going to win. We just believe that V2I or V2X in general, it's something that have to happen. It has so many benefits that one way or another, whether if it's with 5G or ESRC, it will happen. So we are working both of them, acquiring the data directly from vehicles for communication models, but also for computer vision algorithms. And this is the data that's being processed and sent to the units that talk to the traffic light controller. This is what we provide to the cities. This is just control centers that located in the clouds. We can install it in an easy way in every control center that the city might have, without the need to integrate to local system. Even though we can do it, but in the initial phase, piloting phase, etc., we can just do it as standalone. We allow the cities for the first time to implement the city traffic management agenda, which means that they can decide what they want to do, and the system is executing it. For example, city can now decide that they want to prioritize public transportation between 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning in a certain route, and they define it in the system make it happen. Today, by the way, it's all being done manually. About 70% of the signalized intersection are not even connected to anything. So for the first time, we allow them to do it remotely in a much easier way that can save them a lot of time and money. The other thing is that we can provide them all this data analyzed already. On the left side, you see the vehicle counts, average speed, vehicle types, etc. And on the right side, this is the alert panel where we are providing the cities the ability to see any notification about abnormal behavior of drivers. So, for example, if we have an accident, incident, vehicles that going in the wrong direction, anything like this, the system is understanding it, and I'll show you a few videos in a minute, and send only this video to the end user, which is the city, alerting him in real time that something is abnormal, has just happened, and you need to react. Now, the vast majority of cities do not have TMCs or control center, traffic management center or local control center, because it costs a lot of money. And therefore, providing them this tool basically take them from 0 to 1. So it's kind of amazing to see how the vast majorities of the cities react when they see this works. The large cities, even the ones that do have control centers, like LA, New York, and all the major ones, usually they have to monitor tens of thousands of video cameras, and they have only several people that sit in the control center, and they have to monitor it with their own eyes. So it means that even if there is an accident out there, usually they get a call from someone in the field before they can even see it on their video cameras. So it's a not very effective system that's developed what's happened today in the control centers. Another thing that we recently saw that there was a misperception that if city deploy a lot of cameras, they're becoming a smart city. Again, however, we don't have anyone that sit there and can monitor it, and therefore we already saw several cities that even uninstalled the camera that they installed because the population complain about privacy violation by the city. So this is a little bit about our system, how it's structured and what it provides. The last thing that I want to to emphasize, is that one of the things that we find out during our long process of understanding what cities need and how we can tackle this critical problem that's called traffic management is that providing just data for cities is not really helpful, since usually cities do not have the resources to handle this data. So we saw a few projects around the world that city deploys sensors for many types that should improve traffic or other things. However, they didn't have anyone that can deal with this data afterwards. And this is why we developed our system in a way that it will work totally autonomously. It will be an end-to-end solution. The city only needs to define what they want to do, and that's it, it's up and running. So this is a quick video from one of our installations in the city of Ashdod, and this is just to show you how the sensor is working. What you see here basically is one approach that's being covered by one of our sensors. All the objects, the road users that approaching the intersection are being detected by the sensor and translated to a virtual map. This is what you see on the right. What you see on the right is the only data that we are actually sending to the control unit, the top to the traffic light controller and to the cloud, and therefore we don't need a lot of bandwidth when we're talking about cellular communication. We're actually moving to a phase that we are optimizing traffic flow based on ETAs, where today we don't have data that even close to this. This is high-resolution data that we are acquiring. The second thing is that, as you can see here, all the data that we are acquiring from the computer vision algorithms are the same data basically that connected vehicles are sending. Connected vehicles are sending, and autonomous vehicles are sending a basic safety message, which include the type of the vehicle or the unique ID of the vehicle, the location and the bearing. And this is exactly the same type of data that we are acquiring from the non-connected vehicles. So all of our core technology and algorithms are already ready for an era where all the vehicles are connected. And even if all the vehicles will be connected tomorrow, we are ready to work with this kind of data. So just want to give you another few examples of the capabilities of this high resolution data and how it can assist to cities and to all of us as people that live in cities. So when we're talking about traffic accidents, we don't have enough accidents in order to statistically have an estimation of where the next accident is going to happen. What we do have is a lot of near misses situation. The thing is that we don't have data today about near misses. So all these small accidents or almost accidents that happen on the road, basically no one knows about it. We don't have any record or any statistics. Our system can detect any behavior which is not normal. And what you can see here, for instance, is again from one of our installations in Israel. You can see that this vehicle is just entering the wrong direction and continue driving. He should have continued and take the next turn on the left, but he just missed this turn since the road was unmarked. And once the city did, they rebuilt the intersection, they didn't mark the intersection, and in one day we got like 10 notifications like this. This is another one, it's even a little bit more dramatic. So, you see just several vehicles just entering the wrong direction and keep driving, where we have vehicles that just coming from the other direction towards them. So once we got about 10 notifications like this, the city actually got it in real time. They understand that they have to do something in order to prevent future accidents. They went to the intersection, they repaint the lights, they put signs, and they make sure that the drivers know where to drive to. And this is one of the ways that we can use in order to prevent accidents from even happening. The other thing that I want to talk about is actually moving forward. So we talk a lot about connected and autonomous vehicles. However, we are entering a transition phase. During this transition phase, we're going to have on the same road, on the same asphalt, connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles, regular vehicles, pedestrians, bikes, so many types of road users. Obviously, not all of them connected. No one knows how long this transition period will take. Some say 10 years, some say 30 years. We don't really know. The only thing that we can know that everyone needs somehow to get along. We saw recently a few accidents that all of them were involved autonomous vehicles and other non-connected road users. I think the most famous one was a Waymo accident last year, where an autonomous vehicle crossed an intersection in green light, and another vehicle, a road, basically a human driver, just ran the red light and crashed into the autonomous vehicle. The other vehicles that we saw was actually in May in Arizona, in a city called Chandler, where an autonomous vehicle hit the pedestrian and couldn't identify the pedestrian. So again, this is all those scenarios are happening because we have this hybrid environment with many types of road users. It's especially happening in urban areas. Urban areas are very different, are difficult to model. Highways are more easier to model in a sense, but in urban areas we have many things that happen, many blind spots, many limited line of sight, and many places that we are negotiating with the environment. You can just think for a second when you're entering a roundabout or when you're entering a merging lane. You look to your left, and if you see a guy with the driving a new Porsche, you're probably going to let him pass, and you're going to push the brakes. If you're going to see some old guy or an old lady with an old car, you're probably going to push the gas, and you're going to pass him. All those behaviors are really different and difficult to model. And specifically in those areas, those conflict points where we have to negotiate with the environment, we know to provide them another layer of data to assist them to get better decisions. So I want to go and just to show you experiments that we did in June with Ashdod. It is one of our partners here in Israel. It's one of the most innovative cities in Israel, and basically they allow us to block the whole intersection during daytime, which is not obvious. We did it in collaboration with a company that called Foresight. It's an Israeli company that also trades in the Nasdaq and Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. And it was one of the first experiments that actually showed and demonstrated how using communication between road infrastructure and connected and autonomous vehicles, we can prevent accidents exactly like the scenarios I talked about before of Google and Uber. I'll jump to the interesting part. So what you see here is a red line prevention scenario. The vehicle on the left, it's a flight vehicle. It's equipped with connectivity. Basically, it's the vehicle on the right, the black vehicle, is a vehicle that's approaching the intersection. And this vehicle is about to run the red lights. The point of view, where we're seeing now the video, is a point of view from a drone, which is located just above our system. Our system is pointed toward the approach where the black vehicle is approaching from. And now it's basically detecting that the black vehicle is going to cross the intersection in red lights and send this data to the white vehicle, alerting him that he's in a course of collision and therefore he should brake. So this is just to show you one of the benefits of our system. Afterwards, we did another scenario with a pedestrian that basically entered the road from a block location to the vehicle, simulating the Uber scenario. Our system detects, again, we have two objects that's about to collide, send this data to the connected vehicle, which allows the driver, watch out, you cannot see, but in the next turn, there is an object, if you're going to continue in this speed, you're going to run into. So again, this is another benefit of having this another additional layer of data from the infrastructure. The last thing that I want to also talk about, and it's become actually pretty interesting when you're talking about this whole new multimodal traffic management, which involves pedestrians, bikes, buses, etc., is the fact that one of the things that we find out is cities are moving to a phase where they want to optimize not just vehicles, but actually people and goods. And just to let you know, about 70% of the time, cities that pedestrians are pushing the push button in the intersection in order to cross the intersection, they actually pass in red lights, which means that the traffic light controller is now getting an indication that there is someone there, even though this someone is passed a long time ago. One of the other capabilities of our system is actually to know if there is a pedestrian there and how many pedestrians we have. Now, it's a whole new layer of data that we can use it. For example, if we have 20 pedestrians and one vehicle is standing in a traffic light, now the city can decide, according to their process, they want to actually prioritize the people or the pedestrian over the vehicles. So, So this is a little bit about us. I'm just going to finish with something nice that I saw recently in one of the major cities in the US. This is what we call a human-level AI. A guy from the city that work. This is what he is doing for working. He holds a remote control, which connected to the car. When you see a bus approaching, he push the button and prioritize him manually. So we believe that when we're talking about autonomous vehicle, connected vehicle, all this great technology, the road infrastructure have to go a long way in order to bridge the gap. And this is our mission to do so. So thank you very much for listening and for your time. If you have any question, I'll be more than happy to answer. And thanks again.
Thanks, Tal. Much appreciated. A bunch of questions on the V2X end of things. The first question is there in Israel, is there a standard for communication? Are there devices going into cars, or is that still open?
So it's a good question. I think that worldwide it's a whole chaos. There is no really standards. There are two methods. One of them is cellular communication, the other is VSOC. We don't have anything binding or anything like this here, and also in any other locations that we are working.
So in the example you showed, were you using DSRC or were you using cell through the cloud?
So actually we used the cellular communication. We used 4G, not 5G, because we don't have it deployed yet. But even though we got a really low latency, one of the purposes of this experiment basically was to show and demonstrate that our system can integrate to any application that can be found on any smartphone. Since the penetration rate of DSRC is still relatively low, we demonstrate how can we communicate with any application. So it doesn't matter from our side whether it's Waze or Google or Mobileye or anyone else. We provide the ability, the APIs to communicate for the first time with the road infrastructure.
Got you. Where in that particular example, and this may just sort of be, this may be too detailed, but it would really help to understand where in that example of the two vehicles approaching the junction was the logic, right? So at some point, somebody had to decide this vehicle is not slowing down. You know, it's probably going to run the red light. That's a piece of logic that has to be decided somewhere. And then somebody has to figure out which vehicles need to be told this piece of information. How did you handle all of that?
Sure. So what we are doing in the end of the day, we are collecting data about certain routes, certain approach. And once we understand what is the average speed of the vehicles that approaching the intersection, and we also know the traffic light timing, we can detect and understand according to a certain threshold, in what accuracy or we believe that this vehicle is going to run a red light. So it's a threshold that we can play with, because in the end of the day, we have 100% only when the vehicle is actually crossing in red lights. We cannot know if we will manage to stop or not. The only thing we can know is to assess according to the speed and according to the traffic light timing. And this is one of the things that we are actually working on to have as less false positive as we can, and to understand as best as we can when a vehicle is actually about to cross. In the end of the day, we believe that sending this message that alert the driver, this is the most important thing, because again, we're looking at traffic lights as an authority. When we see a green light, we drive. We usually we're not looking to decide to see if the intersection is clear or not. And this is one of the biggest mistakes, because the intersection not really clear, it's not really safe. The traffic lights have no idea. It doesn't know that now there is another vehicle that's approaching and actually going to cross in red lights. And we count on the same traffic lights that cannot even see it. So in a way, the traffic lights are really blind, and we count them as an authority, but it's not really an authority. So we actually give them the eyes, the brain, and the ability to talk and communicate. In terms of when is the right time to communicate, this is something that we are trying to give at least a few seconds in advance to let the driver act. Otherwise, it will we cannot really prevent anything.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting challenge as to where that's done. Yeah. Is the car itself doing the analysis to decide if it's going to run the red light? I mean, is the computation about the speed and the light traffic being done in the car, or are you doing that in a service somewhere else?
So again, it all depends who are we integrating with, because you can look at this, we have a different or another point of view that the vehicle do not have because of our location. And therefore, we can communicate the location of all the other objects to the vehicle and allow it to calculate where the other vehicles are and whether the same vehicle that we send this information to is about to hit this object. Or we can also do the calculation in our side, because we know where all the vehicles are. So it really depends who are we integrating to. But in the end of the day, the important thing is to create this connectivity between the non-connected and the connected. And to tell the vehicles what's happened around the corner, who is out there, whether if it's a pedestrian and non-connected vehicles or etc. Because again, it doesn't matter how many sensors they have, they cannot see it.
We still have you outnumbered by one. We've got a crazy engineer to take.
So, any questions from anyone else?
Okay, so
I have a
guys,
question.
sure.
I was just wondering if you could say who your cloud provider was, where you're hosting all of these services.
So we're working with a few of them. Obviously, the well-known one that I believe you're all familiar with, Amazon, Google, and others. Again, we still, in terms of latency and in terms of the last question that was asked about the threshold, when to send this notification alert. This is stuff that we are still exploring and to see and determine exactly the right time and or which cloud provides the best services to our needs. But we are inspecting several of them.
Awesome, thanks.
This is our contact information. My personal email is the same one. Just start with Tal, T-A-L, and then @NOTRAFFIC.tech. I'll be more than happy to provide additional information or to have a one-on-one conversation in case it's someone wants to dig deeper in one of those topics that we discussed about. And again, thank you very much for listening.
Thanks. Was there any more questions before we let Tal go? Well, thanks, Tal. I really appreciate it. This was recorded, so if people want to go back and take a look later, it should be on the website within a day. And thanks a lot, Tal. I much appreciate it. I guess it's getting a bit late there.
Yeah, it's 7:30. So since most of our operation is in the US, we're now starting our second day of work. So it's fine.
Well, thanks a lot. I much appreciate it. You have a great day. I mean, a great night.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.